I want to be real with you. And I think even more importantly, I want to find the truth. It's really what I'm here to do. I want to discover it. I want to do it with you guys. I realized something that's been affecting a lot of people. And it's just been prominent across not even only our religions as a whole, but in the institutions that are around us that are shaping the beliefs that we have about ourselves. I believe that deep down, there is the worst belief that is destroying people's lives. It is the rejection of humanity itself. I speak a lot about human darkness, and I talk a lot about people's potential, and I began to realize that most people are just unaware sleepers, just walking around, going about, doing their day-to-day. Not many people are living an intentional life. You need to think about it this way. An intentional life is a deeply divine life because you have a level of awareness behind the things that you do. I want to challenge you with a very difficult question, and that's the question that changed my life, and hopefully it'll change yours. Are you a good person? Think about it. Are you a good person, or are you just not a bad one? Now, when you ask yourself that question, I want you to realize how much of yourself are you aware of? Because you might be stuck in a cycle. You might be seeing problems that seem like they can never be solved. And the more they beat you down, the more you believe that's true. I want to tell it to you this way. Stop rejecting yourself. Start investigating what you're made of, who you are, what you're into. So the way that I wanted to start this video off is through pointing out how you reject yourself on a daily basis. Now, there's a system of beliefs that have been ingrained in you that make you think that you yourself, as the human that you are a problem that exists. In life, you can live two ways, unconsciously or consciously. Those are the real choices that you have in life. You can either be conscious of the decisions that you make, or you can be unconscious about the decisions that you make. I made the brief description of my own shadow and the darkness that I had in me. And I want you to start investigating the darkness you have in you. So there's a few levels of awareness a lot of people have, that they think that goodness is just something that's there and that it's for everybody to pick up. Remember, you need to be aware of how aware you are. Ask yourself a real question. Am I good, or am I just surviving with the things that I know that people think and tell me are good? Am I a part of the institution that I'm in, the religious beliefs that I have, because I actually believe those things are true, or because there's not going to be as much conflict or confrontation? So really the whole point of this whole page and what I'm trying to do is to help people be real. Because once you're real, you're aware. And when you're aware you're real, you can truly be good. So I believe in something called authenticity. It's the part in us that is you. It's made to be you. It's unique. It's why you're here. And the big problem is that people are no longer being vulnerable, communicating the things about themselves that are true. The problem with that is that there will never be a space by which people can communicate to their heart. They can communicate what they feel. They can communicate what their desires are. And that people can be open to listen and understand that if this is a part of your humanity, then it's your job to integrate it. Your desires, everything about you. And so I started doing more research, and I realized with all of my clients across the board, there's a belief that people have adopted, not only religiously, but even through the secular society that we have, that still make people constantly reject their humanity. They reject their darkness. They reject the aspects of them that are selfish. They reject the aspects of them that want power. You have two choices in life. You could either be aware of this or you can run from it. And I think the best way to understand your darkness and your shadow and to truly become the confident individual that you want to be is by investigating your darkness. Now, I believe that the best way to understand this is that darkness is not a problem. You've made it the problem, and you've rejected it. And I'll tell you why. Because it's unique. It's what makes you real. It's what makes you intense. When people look in your eyes, they can see the depths in them. And the depths are what? Dark. And that's what makes you deep. And that makes you somebody worth investigating, opposed to somebody that's just, see the whites in their eyes. Oh, I do personal development. So nice to meet you. You're not real. And the reason why you're not real is because you're not connected to the dark parts of you. Now, when waking somebody up, and especially what I do with my clients, the most important thing is to increase their awareness of the subconscious intentions that they have from other people. So I drew it out. I think that's the best way to do it. Let's just do it again. Here's you. This is you. Whether you like it or not, you're composed of darkness and light. Now, this means that everything that makes you real is not in the places that you like. They're going to be in the places that make you real, typically your darkness. So here's what you have over here. There's you, unaware, living in this one dimension that allows you to be liked by everybody. Everything that you've picked up is a survival mechanism that you have no relationship or connection to. You tell yourself that you really would die for the things that you believe in, but you don't even know what you believe in because you're not real. So your beliefs are really just a protective mechanism or a strategy that you've created to avoid confronting yourself. And I'm not here pushing like conservative ideals or even political ideals. I want you to remember something, that if you want to change the world, you need to be an individual. Individuality starts with awareness of your capacity. It also starts with knowing what you're made of. And there's a beautiful quote. If you want to find who you truly are, you must know all of what you are made of. And so this is everybody. And this is going to be everybody for a little bit. Sleeping, walking, doing their things. You know the best thing that ever happened to you in your life? Crisis. Best thing that ever happened to me. And I think that's where a lot of people started waking up, when they started realizing, ooh, crisis is real. Pain is real, disease is real, death is real. Maybe you lost somebody. Maybe you went through a breakup. Maybe you're somebody who's been experiencing serious, antagonizing pain internally. Somebody who's seriously depressed. Just remember, you need to realize that once you have this big wake-up call, you see both parts of yourself. You are now composed of the darkness along with the light. You know what most people do when they see this? They run. So the best way I can do is kind of give you a story about what happens when you find your darkness. It's the part of individuation, as Jung would say. It's also the part by which you start making choices, meaning that you bear the weight of those decisions and its responsibility, the consequences along with the blessings. You mourn your own actions, opposed to feeling bad for yourself and looking to others to rationalize them, perhaps. This is how you create an individual. And so I realized, and I'll tell you in a story, there's this movie I once watched at a particular point in my life. I was really depressed at around 21 years old. Now, what was really interesting is, at this point in my life, I was looking for answers. And I want you guys to understand this, that if you're looking for truth, look for it everywhere. Look for it in the people around you, not just the videos you watch on YouTube. Look for it. So I was 21 years old at the time, turning 22, or I think I was 22. It was in October, a very special time of my life, and I repressed all of my dark nature. I came out of a serious relationship. That relationship was something that I took no accountability for. I walked out of it just expecting that I'd bump into the next pretty sweetheart. That was not the case. That was another person that I would most likely manipulate. So what I realized as I was watching this movie, the movie starts off with a young boy trying to make moves on his girlfriend. He's trying to make moves on his girl. Every time he tries to reach into her pants, what does she do? She rejects him. So he rolls his eyes, he gets off, he puts his hands on the windowsill. The house next door was sold. And as he was leaning up against the windowsill, he noticed that they were bringing a coffin into the backyard basement. He questions it, piques his curiosity as he begins to investigate the house more and more. As he begins to investigate, he realizes that the next door neighbor is a vampire. Now, the vampire is going to be a great symbol because it's going to be the symbol of your darkness, of your potential. And by the way, guess what? Typically happens once there's a girl. It typically comes to your awareness once you're questioning why you're not getting the things in life that you really desire. That's why you're here. So of course he sees the vampire, and the vampire catches that he sees him biting into another person. So the next morning, the vampire heads over to the house. He knocks on the door. Tall, dark, and handsome. One of the most seductive, powerful, centered individuals, but dark as can be. Of course, the sun is shaking at the sight of what he needs to be, which is going to be that at some point in the future. And he comes up to the young boy after the mom invites him in, which he had wrapped around his finger. He had such a powerful presence. The kid's like, holy shit, that's the devil, right? Because that's exactly what the vampire is embodied by. And he sees how his mom responds to it and invites him in. So that's a very particular detail here, is that you guys need to be willing to invite this part of yourself into your own home. And it's not going to be pretty, just like in the story. It won't be pretty. He sits down in front of the boy and he looks him in the eye and he goes, you go peeking around, you're dead. Are you sure you want to keep looking? And that's exactly the part of yourself that you're afraid of, that you need to be willing to believe that you can fight. Well, you're going to feel just like the kid. You're going to feel just like the kid that's looking up against this vampiric demon of darkness that you're supposed to take down, but you're 15 years old and not capable at all. And so what ends up happening is you look at him and a part of you goes, I either reject this now, and I live in my naivete, and I keep trying to make hopeless moves on my girlfriend who's ignoring me, or I go, bring it on. I want to find the truth about me through the darkness. And that's where all the truth lies. And so, of course, the story goes on. He's trying to investigate more and more and more about this vampire, as the vampire is beginning to realize that this kid's clever. This kid's got some grit. It's going to kind of be you fighting your inner darkness. You're going to be fighting and wrestling until you get that motherfucker on a leash. And that's truly when you become an individual, when you get it on a leash. And so, of course, the story continues, and the vampire then meets this young boy's girlfriend. She didn't see a man who was sweet and kind. She saw a monster that she was deeply pulled to. And the way that they shot it in the film was so beautiful. So you can clearly see that the woman was transforming around the presence of this man. And he seduced her like this. Now, of course, the kid is watching this going like, why doesn't she do that for me, right? And this is the thing about a lot of people and why their relationships suck, is because their awareness level in their relationships are completely naive. And that there is a part of a woman that is deeply satisfied by a man that is in touch with his darkness. So do that for yourself to create a safe space for your woman and for yourself. But how can you create a safe space with no awareness? You're just naive, not strong. You're hopeful, not faith. He ends up taking the girl home, and she's like turned into this maiden goddess. She's completely legs spread for this vampire. And of course, what does the young boy need to be? Well, he's going to be the vampire hunter, the Van Helsing, so to speak, the man that fights for good, the person that understands that he needs to be a vampire hunter with the same capacity to take out the vampire, or else you're just going to lose the princess to the son of a that doesn't care about good and just wants to suck the blood out of everybody. Remember that. He stands up against his shadow with all of the tools that he needed, all of the beliefs about himself that he can take it out, although young, and with belief. Very similar to David and Goliath. He was able to slay the vampire. Of course, the movie ends with him making love to his girlfriend, and this time believing that he's worthy of it. The challenges and the obstacles in your life are exactly where you're supposed to go. They're exactly who you're supposed to investigate. So I realized in life that, it comes in. You wake up, there's your shadow. Do you want to know when you can truly be a good person? It's not when you're avoiding the parts of yourself as you need to pick up some sort of numbing agent, alcohol, marijuana, porn, sex, work, so that you could avoid this, but perhaps so that you could bring this into the light. And that's when you create the second part of your human consciousness, by which you are now fully integrated, meaning that you're no longer living in avoidance of yourself. You are living collectively with all of what you are, realizing that good isn't just in the light and bad isn't just in the dark. That perhaps it's the collective embodiment of light and dark towards an ideal, which would be pointing upward. And of course, if you want to be a piece, pointing downwards. This is something that changed my life. The realization that I'm fake. The realization that perhaps you are too. The realization that a man will not feel fulfilled unless he's done something for himself. The realization to where we are not such pretty creatures. The realization to where we have dark, selfish, centric needs that have been ingrained in us over hundreds and thousands of years that make us what we are and what we're capable of being, which is good. God believed it. So do I. But right now, most people's definition of goodness is being unaware. I don't stand by that. What I really recommend for everybody to do here is to start investigating the parts of themselves that are real and authentic, that aren't so pretty, that are perhaps weak, that are perhaps centric, the parts of you that lust, the parts of you that have a desire for power, the parts of you that are manipulative, the parts of you that you see in others that you constantly reject. Start there and realize that it's part of your humanity. It deserves love, it deserves light, and it deserves to be brought into the world, integrated. Not something that controls you, but something that you control. To be a good person is to be a person that has done everything that he can for himself and understanding all of what he is made of and directing that towards a higher purpose. Then you could be good, then you could be honest, and then you can be real. Start there and realize that life is a journey that opens you up to all of who you can be, and it fulfills you and it satisfies you. As a man, you become the hero, and as a woman, you meet one. Isn't that what we all want?